Welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the emotional roller coaster of Genoa City. Today is a beautiful day to unpack some of the most heart-wrenching and triumphant moments we have seen in recent television history. The landscape of our favorite families is shifting rapidly, and the drama has never been more intense. Let us jump straight into the incredible events unfolding right now. The sterile smell of the New York hospital corridor hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the chaotic corporate battlegrounds of Genoa City. Malcolm Winters lay in that pristine, terrifyingly quiet room, his life hanging by the thinnest, most fragile of threads. Aplastic anemia is a merciless thief, stealing the vitality from a man who had always been the vibrant, beating heart of the Winters family. The monitors beeped with a slow, agonizing rhythm. Every rise and fall of his chest felt like a bar of miracle. Outside that room, the tension was a physical weight. Lily Winters paced the floor, her mind a whirlwind of terror and desperate hope. The stakes had never been higher. This was not about corporate espionage or fake AI emails. This was about blood. This was about survival. And the only man who held the key to that survival was the very man who had recently been dragged out of the Genoa City Athletic Club in handcuffs. Cain Ashby had risked absolutely everything to be in that hospital. The image of him being arrested, the cold steel of the cuffs snapping around his wrists while Lily watched in sheer horror, was still burned into the collective memory of the city. He was facing devastating federal charges. Victor Newman had utilized a highly advanced artificial intelligence program to frame Cain, Phyllis Summers, and Billy Abbott in a ruthless bid to reclaim his empire. The evidence looked insurmountable, the prison time seemed inevitable. Yet, when the call came, when the agonizing truth was revealed that neither Holden Novak nor the twins were a bone marrow match for Malcolm, Cain did not hesitate. He defied the crushing weight of the legal system. He put his freedom, his reputation, and his very future on the line to travel to New York. He laid down on that operating table not as a disgraced corporate executive, but as a savior. The medical procedure itself was a grueling marathon of science and sheer human willpower. Dr. Stephanie Simmons orchestrated the stem cell transplant with the precision of a maestro, but even the best doctors know that the human body must ultimately choose to fight. Ours bled into days. The waiting room became a sanctuary of whispered prayers and stifled sobs. Holden Novak sat with his head in his hands, terrified of losing the biological father he had only just begun to know. Nate Hastings offered quiet, steady medical reassurance, acting as the anchor for a family adrift in a sea of medical uncertainty. And then, the miracle happened. The numbers stabilized. The color slowly, beautifully began to return to Malcolm Winters' face. The transplanted cells took hold. He was going to live. The collective sigh of relief that washed over the Winters family was powerful enough to shatter glass. In the immediate aftermath of the successful surgery, the atmosphere shifted from paralyzing fear to profound, overwhelming gratitude. Cain awoke from the procedure weak, exhausted, but fundamentally changed. He had given a piece of himself to save the patriarch of the family he loved. This ultimate act of selfless sacrifice sent shockwaves through the entire community. Even Devin Winters, who had harbored a toxic, burning resentment toward Cain, who had cynically suspected Cain was only using Malcolm conditioned to manipulate Lily, was forced to confront his own bitter prejudices. Standing in that hospital hallway, Devin had to look at the man he despised and acknowledge the undeniable truth. Cain Ashby had saved his family. The community of Genoa City, so often quick to judge and condemn, watched in silent awe as the narrative completely transformed. Cain was no longer the villain of a corporate scandal. He was the undisputed hero of a human tragedy. But the real world, with all its harsh legal realities, was waiting back in Genoa City. The courtroom was suffocating. The mahogany walls felt like a closing trap. The air was thick. The silence was deafening. Cain stood before the judge. His tailored suit felt like armor that was far too heavy. The charges of fraud and corporate sabotage loomed over him like an executioner axe. Christine Blair Romalotti sat at the prosecution table, her file stacked high, representing the relentless pursuit of justice. The Newman family AI evidence, though highly contested, was still a massive, terrifying obstacle. Lily sat in the gallery, her hands trembled. Her breath caught in her throat. The judge adjusted his glasses. He looked down at the paperwork. He looked at Cain. The tension was unbearable. Every second felt like an hour. The gavel was raised. The judge spoke. His voice echoed off the high ceilings. He acknowledged the severity of the charges. He acknowledged the complexity of the digital evidence, but then he shifted the focus. He spoke of the medical records submitted to the court. He spoke of the bone marrow transplant. He spoke of a man who willingly risked his own life and legal standing to save another human being. The sacrifice for Malcolm Winters was presented not just as a footnote, but as the defining, mitigating factor of Kane character. The judge declared that society is not served by imprisoning a man who has demonstrated such profound, selfless heroism. He struck the gavel, probation, a suspended sentence. Kane was free. And this is the moment I almost screamed at the screen. The sheer, overwhelming relief was intoxicating, a brilliant release of weeks of suffocating narrative tension. The psychological release that washed over Kane in that moment is almost impossible to quantify. He had been standing on the precipice of total destruction. He had imagined the cold bars of a federal penitentiary. He had imagined losing his children, losing his legacy, losing Lily forever. And in a single heartbeat, the universe handed him a second chance. He stepped out of the courthouse doors and the sunlight hit his face. The heavy, suffocating ankle monitor of guilt and impending doom was gone. He was a free man, but far more importantly, he was a redeemed man. His slate had been wiped clean, not by high price laws or corporate loopholes, but by the undeniable purity of his own sacrifice. He had walked through the fire and emerged purified, ready to reclaim the life he had almost thrown away. Lily Winters stood outside the courthouse, watching the man she loved breathe the air of freedom. She had been through absolute hell. The fake kidnapping plot, the corporate warfare, the endless cycle of betrayals and miscommunications had left her heart battered and heavily guarded. She had truly believed that the trust between them was permanently, irreparably shattered. But watching Kane risk everything for her biological father had fundamentally altered her emotional landscape. The thick walls of resentment melted away, the bitter anger dissolved into nothingness. She looked at Kane, and she did not see the man who had made mistakes. She saw the man who had given her father a tomorrow. She saw the man who loved her so fiercely that he would walk into a prison cell if it meant keeping her family whole. The confrontation between them was raw and beautifully stripped of all pretense. The emotional barriers were completely gone. They stood face to face, the history of their epic romance hanging between them like a heavy, beautiful tapestry. Lily looked into his eyes, and the tears finally fell. There were no lies left to tell. There were no secrets left to hide. There was only raw, unfiltered vulnerability. She realized, with a breathtaking clarity, that her profound love for Kane had never actually died. It had just been buried under the heavy rubble of their past traumas and the toxic interference of Genoa City power players. She reached out and touched his face, and in that simple gesture, years of pain were instantly forgiven. They made the conscious, mature decision to give their love another chance. This was not a naive, impulsive leap back into a toxic cycle. This was a deliberate choice made by two adults who had survived the absolute worst and come out the other side. They held hands, the physical touch electric and grounding. They chose forgiveness. They chose family. They chose each other against all the impossible odds that the universe had thrown at them. They sat down together and laid out all their deepest fears. They discussed the AI framing, the betrayals, the lack of communication that had torn them apart. They vowed, with absolute sincerity, to never let corporate ambition or outside manipulation eclipse their family unit ever again. It was a masterclass in mature romance, proving that true love is not about avoiding the storm, but about learning how to rebuild the house together after the hurricane has passed. The blessing of Malcolm Winters served as the ultimate foundation for this newly rebuilt relationship. From his recovery bed, his voice weak but his spirit unbroken, Malcolm looked at the man who had saved his life. He looked at the daughter he adored. He saw the profound, undeniable connection between them. Malcolm offered his full, unconditional blessing. He validated Kane's redemption in a way that no court of law ever could. Malcolm's approval bridged the painful gap between the past and the future, healing the generational wounds of the Winters family and providing Lily and Kane with the sacred permission to finally be happy. It was a moment of profound grace that solidified their reunion. But a family is not just a people. Kane and Lily knew that their reconciliation meant nothing if they could not heal the collateral damage inflicted upon their children. Charlie and Maddie had been caught in the devastating crossfire of their parents' drama for far too long. Kane and Lily turned their full, undivided attention to their twins. They initiated the painful but necessary healing process. They sat down as a united front and apologized for the chaos, the instability, and the pain their separation had caused. They promised a new era of transparency and stability. The family unit, which had been shattered into a million sharp, painful pieces, was slowly, meticulously being glued back together with a newfound respect and an unbreakable bond of love. As Kane and Lily look toward the horizon, the future seems brighter than it has in years. The corporate wars of the Newman and Abbott empires seem incredibly trivial now. They have faced the terrifying specter of death. They have faced the grim reality of prison. They have survived it all. They stand united, hand in hand, ready to face whatever new, unpredictable challenges Genoa City might conjure up next. Their bond has been tested by the hottest fires and forged into something entirely unbreakable. They have proven that redemption is possible, that forgiveness is a superpower, and that true love, when nurtured with sacrifice and honesty, can conquer absolutely anything. Will this beautiful, hard-fought peace last in a city known for tearing families apart, or is this just the calm before a brand new storm?